The ledger was found in the winter of 1923, during the demolition of an old plantation house outside Charleston, to make way for a new road.
Thank you. Rest
It was
now.
wedged
I'll
behind
stay.
a chimney
Feels
breast in what
better.
had once
Good.
been the master's study, its leather cover warped and speckled with mold. The workmen, local men paid by the day, nearly tossed it onto the pile of splintered lath and plaster, but one of them, a young man named Isaiah, prized it open and saw the spidery handwriting inside. He could not read, but something in the neat, columned rows made him pause. He tucked it into his coat and later gave it to his mother, who worked as a maid for the town's historian. It was a plantation ledger, dating from 1840 to 1865. It contained the usual meticulous accounts: bales of cotton, bushels of corn, pounds of rice, the cost of lime for the fields and nails for the roof. And then, in a section titled Property,
That's it, dear.
Negroes,
Be
it
careful
listed
now.
names.
Yes, ma'am, I'm trying.
Not just
Good
the
girl.
terse,
Keep going.
dehumanizing entries one might expect: buck, field hand, $800,
Rest easy.
or
The
Eliza,
night will
cook,
pass.
$600, but names
What's
that
this
were
for?
impossible.
It's very old. Be
Names
gentle.
that belong
It
to
holds
no
our
known
history.
lineage,
Indeed,
no
a
African
fine lesson.
tribe, no English bastardization. Names like Asterope, Telesilla, and Etiocles. The historian, a white woman from Connecticut, dismissed them as fanciful nicknames, the kind enslaved people sometimes gave each other, a small rebellion in the face of erasure. But the names nagged at her. They were too precise, too deliberately classical. She kept the ledger in a glass case in the local
here
historical
with you.
society, a
Thank
minor
you.
curiosity,
Rest now.
until she
I'll
died
stay.
in
Feels better.
1958.
Good.
The ledger was then boxed up and stored in a damp basement, forgotten again for 60 years. It was rediscovered in 2019, during an inventory. By then, the questions had changed. A young archivist, descendant of the Gullah people who still lived on the Sea Islands, saw the names and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the basement's cold. She understood. These were not nicknames. These were ghosts, trying to be remembered. And one name, recorded only once, in a trembling hand different from the plantation owners, was a story that had been waiting 170 years to be told. Her name was Ilara. The cold open of Ilara's life was not a moment of high drama, but a whisper.
That's it, dear.
It was
Be
the
careful
softest
now.
of
Yes,
sounds,
ma'am, I'm
a name spoken
trying.
into
Good
the
girl.
downy fuzz
Keep
of a
going.
newborn's ear, so quiet it was almost lost to the creak of the cabin walls and the distant
Rest
howl of a
easy.
hound
The
on
night
the
will
master's
pass.
step. The woman who
What's
spoke
this
it,
for?
a field hand
It's
named
very
Nanny,
old. Be
was not
gentle.
It
Ilara's
holds
mother.
our history.
Indeed,
Her own
a fine
child,
lesson.
a boy of 2, lay sleeping on a pallet of rags in the corner. The newborn's mother, a girl of barely 15 named Scylla, lay motionless on the dirt floor, a still wet sheet pulled over her face. She had not survived the birth. Ilara, Nanny whispered again, her rough thumb tracing a circle on the baby's chest. It was a name she had heard long ago, from an old woman who had been brought over on the big boat, a woman who spoke of rivers and stars and spirits with names that tasted like honey and iron in her mouth. The old woman was long gone, sold south, but her stories lingered. Nanny knew the master would write down something else in his book. Scylla's girl. New wench. Maybe it's Sarah, or Mary, if the missus was feeling pious. But here, in the half-dark of the cabin, the child had a name. Ilara. The master, a man named Theophilus Northrop, was not a cruel man in the way of stories. He did not relish the lash or fine sport in torment. He was a man of business, and his business was cotton. He saw his slaves as capital, as livestock with the unfortunate complication of language and a distressing tendency to die or run away. His cruelty was the quiet cruelty of the ledger, of the balance sheet, of the cold arithmetic that turned a woman's exhausted tears into a deduction from the quarter's profit. When Scylla died, he noted it in his book, Scylla, prime childbearing age, loss of potential offspring, $900. He felt the financial sting more keenly than any moral one. The new baby was a thin asset, a risky investment. It might live, or it might not. He told Nanny to do what she could, and if it didn't make it, to bury it
I'm
out
here
by the
with you.
swamp.
Thank you.
Ilara
Rest
lived.
now. I'll stay.
She
Feels
thrived
better.
on Nanny's thin
Good.
milk, shared with her own boy, Isaac. The two children grew like tough weeds in the cracked soil of the slave row, Isaac sturdy and watchful, Lara thin and quiet, with eyes the color of the river on a cloudy day, gray and deep and always watching. By the time she was 5, she was put to work. Not in the fields, not yet. Her job was to mind the smaller children of the field hands while their mothers worked from can't see to can't see. She would sit in the dirt outside the row of cabins, a half-dozen toddlers in her charge, and she would tell them stories. Not the stories Nanny told, of Brer Rabbit and the talking animals, but other stories. She would point to the sky and name the clouds, or she would draw pictures in the dust
That's
with
it,
a
dear.
stick,
Be careful
pictures of
now.
the birds she saw,
I'm
the
trying.
long-legged
Good
herons
girl,
and the
keep
swooping
going.
swallows. The other children, hungry and fretful, would fall
Rest
silent,
easy.
watching
The night
her
will
stick
pass.
move. It was this
What's
quiet
this for?
watchfulness that the overseer,
very old,
a
be
man
gentle.
named Ketchum,
It holds our
noticed.
history.
Indeed, a fine
Ketchum
lesson.
was a different kind of cruel from Northrop. He was a man of appetites, dull and brutish, who found his pleasure in the crack of his whip and the power it gave him over so many bodies. He was not clever, but he was observant in the way of a predator. He saw Elara, this wisp of a girl, and saw not a child, but a unit of potential labor. And he saw her intelligence, her quiet competence, and it unsettled him.
I'm here with you.
Intelligence
Thank
in a
you.
field hand was
Rest
a
now.
dangerous
I'll
thing.
stay.
Feels better.
It led to schemes, to poison, to flight. One afternoon, when Elara was 7, the master's wife, a faded, nervous woman named Margaret, came upon the children's quarters. She had a headache, a constant companion, and was seeking quiet. Instead, she found Elara, standing before a ring of rapt toddlers, drawing in the dust. She was drawing the alphabet. It was a thing Elara had seen, a ghost of knowledge. Once, a long time ago, a young white tutor had tried to teach the master's son, Theophilus Jr., his letters on a slate, sitting on the veranda. Elara, fetching water from the well, had seen the strange marks from a distance, and they had burned themselves into her mind.
That's it,
She
dear.
did not know
Be
what
careful
they
now.
meant,
Yes,
only
ma'am,
that they were
I'm
shapes,
trying.
patterns,
Good girl,
a
keep
secret
going.
code. Now, she was copying them for the children, her small hand
Rest
steady,
easy.
forming
The
a
night will
wobbly
pass.
A. Mrs.
What's
Margaret
this
stood
for?
frozen.
It's very old. Be
The
gentle.
sight of a
It holds
Negro
our
child
history.
making letters
Indeed,
was
a
more
fine
terrifying
lesson.
to her than any ghost. It was a rebellion against the natural order, a spark that could set the whole tinderbox of the plantation ablaze. She did not scream. She did not call for Ketchum. She simply walked back to the big house, her headache pounding, and told her husband. Theophilus Northrop listened, sipping his mint julep, his face a mask of calm. The next day, Elara was taken from the children's quarters and sent to the cotton field. The cotton field was a world of pain. The sun, a white-hot brand in the South Carolina sky, beat down on the endless rows of green and white. The work began before dawn, when the world was still gray and heavy with dew, and did not end until the light failed and the shapes of the cotton bolls blurred into the darkness. Elara, small for her age, was given a sack that dragged on the ground behind her. Her job was to pick, to keep up, to fill the sack. Her fingers, still soft from childhood, were soon split and bleeding from the sharp, dry bolls. The fibrous cotton stuck to the blood, staining it a rusty brown. Ketchum rode his horse slowly along the rows, his whip coiled on his saddle horn. He rarely used it on the children, they were too small to be worth the effort. But his presence was a constant weight, a promise of pain that was as effective as the pain itself. He would stop near Elara, his horse's breath hot on her neck, and just watch. She learned to keep her head down, her hands moving in a desperate, rhythmic dance. But her mind did not stop. It never stopped. In the field, she learned the names of the other slaves. Real names, secret names, whispered in the cabins at night. Names like Amara
I'm
and
here
Chite,
with you.
names from
Thank
across
you.
the water.
Rest now. I'll
She
stay.
learned that the
Feels
old woman,
better.
the one
Good.
who had given Nanny her name, had also told stories of a place where people were not property, where the sun was even hotter and the rivers were filled with creatures that slept on the water's surface. Elara stored these names, these stories, in her head, a hidden library no white man could touch. When she was 9, her world shifted. The master's son, Theophilus Jr., a pale, sickly boy of 14, returned from a year at a school in Charleston. He had not flourished. The other boys had mocked his soft hands and his father's provincial wealth. He came back to the plantation bitter, lonely, and bored. His father, hoping to give him a sense of responsibility, set him to work on the plantation accounts.
That's it,
Theophilus
dear.
Jr.'s
Be careful
task
now.
was to
Yes,
help his
ma'am,
father
I'm
update the
trying.
ledger.
Good girl. Keep going.
The ledger was kept in the master's study, a room Elara had only ever glimpsed through a
Rest
window.
easy. The night will pass.
It was a place of cool shadows and polished wood,
What's this
of
for?
leather-bound books
It's
and the
very
sharp
old. Be
smell of
gentle.
ink.
It holds our history.
It was a
Indeed,
world
a
away
fine
from the
lesson.
dust and sweat of the fields. One afternoon, Ilara was sent to the big house with a bucket of blackberries Nanny had gathered from the edge of the woods. A house girl took the bucket, but as Ilara turned to go, she stumbled on the step, dropping the empty bucket with a clatter. It rolled onto the veranda and through the open door of the study. Panic seized her. Entering the master's study without permission was a whipping offense.
I'm here with you.
But the bucket
Thank
was
you.
in there, and if
Rest
she left
now.
it,
I'll
the
stay.
missing bucket
Feels
would be a
better.
crime,
Good.
too. She crept to the door, her heart a trapped bird in her chest. The room was empty. She saw the bucket lying under a huge mahogany desk. She darted in, snatched it, and as she straightened, her eyes fell upon the desk. The ledger was open. It was a large book, its pages covered in the master's precise, slanting handwriting. But it was not the handwriting that froze her. It was the list. Property, Negroes. And beneath it, names. Big Jack. Lizzie. Little Sam. Nanny. And next to each name, price, a date, a note. Purchased Charleston,
That's it, dear. Be
1835,
careful now.
$650.
Good girl. Keep
Born
going.
into slavery, 1840. Sold, New Orleans,
Rest easy.
1849,
The night will pass.
$800. She saw
What's
her
this
own
for?
name,
It's very old.
not
Be gentle.
Ilara.
It holds our history.
The entry
Indeed,
read,
a
Ellie,
fine lesson.
girl, B. 1843, property of Scylla, deceased. Value, $250. Ellie. They had given her a name from the Bible. A simple, manageable name. A name that fit in the ledger. She stared at the word, at the B, forborn, at the $250. That was her. That was what she was worth. Less than a mule. Less than the mahogany desk she was standing next to. A floorboard creaked in the hall. She flew from the room, out the door, down the steps, her bare feet slapping against the packed earth. She ran all the way back to the row, clutching the empty bucket, her mind a whirl of letters and numbers and the terrible, undeniable truth of her own price. That night, she whispered to Isaac what she had seen. He listened, his young face hardening. That's all we are to him, he said, his voice flat. Numbers on a page. But it ain't all we are, Lara whispered back, her grey eyes glowing in the dark. He got my name wrong. He don't know my name. And he don't know the names Nanny told us. Amora. Chike. Asterope. She said the last name slowly, tasting it. It was one of the old woman's names, the name of a star, Nanny had said. A star that was also a woman, a huntress. A seed was planted that night. A dangerous, impossible seed. If the master's book was the truth of their world, then what if you could write a different truth? What if you could hide a secret book, right under their noses, a book that held the real names, the real stories?
I'm here with you.
It was a
Thank
child's
you.
fancy,
Rest
a wild
now.
dream.
I'll stay. Feels better.
But for Ilara,
Good.
it became a purpose. Over the next 3 years, Ilara became a ghost. She learned the routines of the big house with the same meticulous attention she had once given to the patterns of birds. She knew when the master took his nap, when the missus had her headaches, when the house girls went to empty the slops. She knew that Theophilus Jr., now a sullen young man of 17, spent most of his afternoons drinking his father's whiskey in the barn, avoiding the ledger work he had come to despise. Her opportunity came in the form of a discarded object. The missus had a habit of ordering new stationery from Charleston, thick, creamy paper for her letters, and small, bound notebooks for her household accounts. When one of these notebooks was filled,
That's
or
it,
if she
dear.
made a
Be
mistake
careful
in the
now.
first
Yes,
few
ma'am,
pages,
I'm
she would
trying.
tear out
Good
the
girl.
used
Keep
sheets
going.
and throw the rest of the book away. A house girl, a young woman named
Rest
Phoebe who
easy.
pitied
The night will
Ilara,
pass.
began saving these discarded notebooks
What's
for
this
her.
for?
It's very
She
old.
would slip
Be
them to
gentle.
Ilara
It
when
holds
she
our
came
history.
to fetch
Indeed,
water,
a fine
hidden
lesson.
under her shift. Ilara also stole charcoal from the kitchen hearth, small, blackened sticks she wrapped in a rag. And she stole time. She would hide in the abandoned corn crib, or in a hollow beneath the roots of a giant oak by the swamp, and she would practice. She had no teacher. But she had the memory of the tutor's slate, and the letters in the master's ledger. She would copy them, over and over,
I'm here with
in the
you.
margins of
Thank
the
you.
missus's discarded
Rest now.
notebooks.
I'll stay. Feels
8B.
better. Good.
See, she learned to form her own name, the real one. Elaia. She taught Isaac, too, in the dark of their cabin, tracing letters on his palm with her finger. He was a slower learner, but his mind was sharp in other ways. He could remember the lay of the land, the paths through the woods, the calls of the birds that meant safety or danger. The danger was immense. If she was caught with a book, with writing, she would be whipped within an inch of her life, maybe killed. The fear was a constant companion, a cold knot in her stomach. But the need to write was stronger. It was a rebellion so small, so secret, that no white man could see it. It was her own mind, declaring
That's it, dear.
itself
Be
free.
careful now.
Yes, ma'am.
By the time she was 13,
Good girl.
she
Keep
had
going.
filled 3 small notebooks.
Shh.
They were not narratives.
Rest
They
easy.
were lists.
The night will pass.
Lists of names.
What's this
The
for?
real names of the
It's very
people on
old.
the
Be gentle.
plantation,
It holds
as
our
she knew
history.
them.
Indeed, a fine
She
lesson.
wrote. Nanny, her name from the old country, Ediz. Isaac, his father called him Obi before he was sold. Phoebe, she remembers her mama calling her Folami. Big Jack, he don't say his true name, but he hums a song about a place called Jen. She also wrote the names from the old woman's stories, the ones that had been passed down like heirlooms. Asterope. Telisilla. Etiocles. She did not know who they were, if they were real people or spirits, but they were names that had survived the Middle Passage, the auction block, the lash. They deserved to be written down. She hid the notebooks in a place no one would ever think to look. Behind a loose stone in the chimney breast of the master's study. It was the most dangerous place she could imagine, and therefore, the safest. Who would ever suspect a slave child of hiding anything in the master's own sanctuary? She had slipped in one night, when the family was at a party at a neighboring plantation. The house was quiet, the study dark. She had pried the stone loose with her fingers and pushed the small, precious bundle into the hollow space. It was an act of faith, a prayer whispered into the bricks. The year Alara turned 14 was a year of storms. The cotton crop failed, half drowned by relentless spring rains and then scorched by a summer drought. Theophilus Northrop's ledgers showed red ink for the first time in a decade. He became short-tempered, his quiet cruelty sharpening into something more brittle. He looked at his slaves not as assets, but as liabilities. They still had to be fed, clothed, housed, even if they weren't producing. Something had to be done.
I'm here with
Ketchum,
you.
the overseer,
Thank you.
was the first
Rest
to go.
now. I'll stay.
Northrop
Feels better.
dismissed him without
Good.
a severance, blaming him for the failed crop. Ketchum left in a simmering rage, his dull eyes scanning the slave row as he rode out, as if memorizing faces for a future reckoning. A new overseer was hired, a man named Slade, who was younger, quieter, and far more observant than Ketchum. He watched the field hands with a cold, analytical gaze, and he noticed Ilara. He noticed that she was always watching back. That her hands picked cotton with a mechanical efficiency, but her grey eyes were never still. They flickered to the tree line, to the sky, to the big house, to him. He saw in her a deep, cold intelligence, and it made him uneasy in a way he couldn't explain. He mentioned it to
That's
Northrop
it, dear.
one
Be
evening.
careful now.
Yes, ma'am.
That girl
I'm
Ellie,
trying.
he said.
Good girl. Keep going.
She's got a look about her.
Shh.
A thinking look. Northrop
Rest
waved
easy.
a hand
The night will
dismissively.
pass.
She's a quiet one,
What's this for?
a good
It's
worker.
very old. Be gentle.
It
Never
holds our
any trouble.
history.
Indeed, a fine
Quiet
lesson.
ones are the ones you got to watch, Slade said, his voice flat. They are the ones thinking. The tension on the plantation became a physical thing, a humidity in the air that had nothing to do with the weather. Isaac, now a strong young man of 16, worked beside Ilara in the fields. They spoke little, but their glances carried whole conversations. They both felt the change, the tightening of the screw.
I'm here with you.
Then,
Thank
the
you.
betrayal came from
Rest
an
now.
unexpected
I'll
place.
stay. Feels better.
Phoebe,
Good.
the house girl who had given Ilara the notebooks, was caught stealing a piece of cake from the pantry. It was a minor offense, but Slade saw an opportunity. He did not whip her. He was more subtle than Ketchum. He simply told her, in a quiet, reasonable voice, that if she wanted to keep her place in the big house, if she wanted to avoid being sent to the cotton fields, she would tell him everything she knew about the other slaves. Any secrets. Any plots. Any whispers of escape. Phoebe, terrified, told him about Ilara. Not the books, she didn't know about those. But she told him that Ilara could read and write. That she had seen her with charcoal and paper.
That's it, dear. Be
That
careful
she was
now.
teaching Isaac.
Ma'am, I'm trying.
Slade
Good
went
girl.
straight
Keep
to
going.
Northrop. The master's face, for the first time in Ilara's memory,
Rest easy.
lost its
The
mask
night
of
will
calm.
pass.
A vein pulsed in
What's
his
this
temple.
for?
It's very old.
Reading
Be
and
gentle.
writing.
It holds our
A
history.
thinking
Indeed,
slave.
a fine lesson.
A secret school. It was the one thing, the only thing, that could truly undo their world. The search was immediate and brutal. Slade and two field hands, men bought for their strength and their willingness to do the master's bidding, tore apart the cabin Ilara shared with Nanny and Isaac. They overturned the cornshuck bed, ripped the clothes from the peg on the wall, stamped on the few precious possessions, a carved wooden spoon, a piece of smooth river stone. They found nothing. Ilara stood outside, her face blank, her heart a frantic drum. They hadn't found the books. The books were safe. But the relief was short-lived. Slade walked out of the cabin and stood before her. He didn't ask her where the books were. He didn't ask her who else she had taught. He just looked at her, and then his gaze shifted to Nanny, the old woman who had raised her. "She's your girl?" Slade asked Nanny, though he knew the answer. "Yes, Sue," Nanny whispered, her eyes on the ground. Slade nodded. "Tie her to the post," he said to the two hands. Ilara screamed. She lunged forward, but Isaac grabbed her, holding her back, his own face a mask of agony. "No? She ain't done nothing. It was me. It was me," Ilara shrieked. They tied Nanny's wrists to the whipping post in the center of the row. The other slaves were gathered to watch. It was the law. They had to see. Slade took the whip from his belt, a long, black snake of braided leather. He did not look at Ilara. He looked at the gathered slaves,
I'm
and
here
then he
with you.
brought the whip
Thank
down
you.
across Nanny's back.
Rest now. I'll stay.
The crack
Feels
was like a
better.
rifle
Good.
shot. Nanny's body jerked, but she made no sound. Again and again the whip fell, each stroke opening a red line on her thin, brown back. Ilara counted. 10. 20. 30. She lost count. She was on her knees, Isaac's arms around her, her own screams lost in the terrible rhythm of the lash. When it was over, Nanny was cut down, a bloody, unconscious heap. They dragged her back into the cabin. She lived, but she was never the same. Her spirit, the wellspring of stories and strength, had been broken. And Ilara knew, with a cold, piercing clarity, that it was her fault. Her
That's it,
secret,
dear.
her
Be careful
rebellion,
now.
had
Yes,
drawn the
ma'am,
fire
I'm
onto the one
trying.
person
Good
who
girl.
had ever
Keep
loved
going.
her. The books behind the chimney breast were no longer a testament to hope.
Rest easy. The night will
They were a
pass.
weapon, waiting to be used against
What's
everyone
this
she
for?
cared for.
It's very old. Be gentle.
She had to
It
get
holds
them.
our history.
Indeed,
She had to
a fine
destroy
lesson.
them. For weeks, the plantation was a tomb. Nanny lay in the cabin, drifting in and out of a fevered sleep. Ilara tended her, cleaning the festering wounds with salt water, feeding her sips of broth. Isaac worked in the fields, his silence now a wall of granite. Slade watched them all, waiting for a slip, for the secret to reveal itself. Ilara knew she could not go to the big house.
I'm here with you.
It was too
Thank you.
dangerous.
Rest now. I'll
Slade was
stay.
everywhere,
Feels
and
better.
the master's study
Good.
was surely locked. She was trapped, her own creation turned into a cage. The guilt was a physical weight, pressing her into the dirt. One night, about a month after Nanny was whipped, a soft tap came at the cabin door. It was Phoebe. Her face was swollen from crying. She had been demoted from the big house and was now working in the fields, her hands already bleeding. She looked at Ilara, her eyes full of shame and terror. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean. I was so scared." Ilara looked at her. She felt a surge of anger, hot and bitter. But she looked at Phoebe's face, saw the same fear, the same
That's
desperation
it,
that
dear.
lived in
Be
her
careful
own
now.
heart.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
The
trying.
anger drained
Good
away,
girl. Keep
leaving
going.
only a cold, tired sadness. The system was built to turn them
Rest
against
easy.
each other.
The night will pass.
It was its most perfect, most
What's
evil
this
trick.
for?
It's very
It's
old.
done,
Be gentle.
Ilara
It
said
holds our
quietly.
history.
Indeed, a
Phoebe
fine
shook
lesson.
her head. "No, that ain't why I come. Mr. Slade, he ain't stopped looking. He asked me again today. He asked me if you had a hiding place. He offered me a piece of meat if I told." Ilara's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "I said I didn't know. And I don't." But he's gonna keep asking. He's gonna find someone who does know. She paused, her voice dropping even lower. But there's something else. Mr. Theophilus Jr., he's gonna be leaving. Going back to Charleston. His daddy is sending him away. He's real mad about it. I heard him and Mr. Slade talking in the yard. Mr. Jr., he's gonna be in his study tonight, packing up his books and things. It's his last night. The information hung in the air between them. Ilara's mind, sharpened by years of survival, began to work. The study. Junior's last night. The house would be in some disarray, the family preoccupied with his departure. It might be her only chance. Not to destroy the books, not anymore. But to get them. To move them. To hide them somewhere new, somewhere safe. That night, under a sliver of new moon, Ilara crept out of the cabin. She was a shadow, moving through the deeper shadows. She knew the path to the big house, the creak of every board on the back steps, the habits of the house dogs. She found the kitchen door unlocked, as it always was. She slipped inside, her heart pounding so loud she was sure
I'm
it
here
would wake
with you.
the dead.
Thank you.
She made
Rest
her way
now.
through
I'll
the
stay.
silent house,
Feels
past
better.
the dining
Good.
room, up the back stairs to the hallway that led to the master's study. A thin line of light showed under the door. She heard a muffled sound from within, a sob, then the clink of a glass. She waited, pressed against the wall, for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the light went out. She heard footsteps, the creak of a door opening and closing further down the hall. Junior had gone to bed. She waited another long, agonizing moment. Then she moved. She tried the study door. It was unlocked. She slipped inside, closing it softly behind her. The room was dark, lit only by the faint moonlight through the window.
That's it,
She
dear.
went straight
Be
to the
careful
chimney
now.
breast, to the loose stone.
Good girl. Keep
Her
going.
fingers found the rough edges, pried it free. Her hand reached into
Rest
the
easy.
hollow
The night will pass.
and touched nothing.
What's
Panic,
this for?
cold and
It's
absolute,
very old. Be
flooded her.
gentle.
It holds our
They
history.
were gone.
Indeed, a fine lesson.
Slade had found them. It was over. Then a voice, slurred with whiskey, came from the darkness by the window. Looking for these? A match flared, illuminating the pale, gaunt face of Theophilus Jr. He was sitting in his father's chair, a half-empty decanter of brandy on the desk beside him. In his other hand, he held the 3 small notebooks. Ilara could not move.
I'm here with you. Thank
She
you.
could not breathe.
Rest now. I'll stay.
This was the end.
Feels better.
Good.
The whipping post. The sale. Death. All of it flashed before her eyes. Junior stared at her, his eyes bloodshot and unfocused. He looked at the notebooks, then back at her. I found them this morning, he said, his voice thick. I was packing my own books. I knocked this stone, heard a hollow sound. I thought it was my father's hiding place. His money. He gave a short, bitter laugh. Instead, I find this. He held up a notebook. Asterope. Telesilla. Etiocles. He pronounced the names carefully, clumsily. Where did
That's
you
it,
get
dear.
these names?
Be careful now.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a question she never
Good girl.
expected.
Keep going.
She found her voice, a dry croak. From the
Rest
old
easy.
ones.
The night will pass.
The ones who came before.
What's this for?
They're Greek,
It's very
he
old.
said,
Be
as if
gentle.
to
It
himself.
holds our history.
Indeed,
Names
a
from
fine lesson.
stories. My tutor in Charleston, he made me read them. The Iliad. The Odyssey. I hated them. He took a long drink from the decanter. But these names, they are here. In my father's house. Written by a slave girl. He looked at her then, and for the first time, Laura saw something in his eyes other than the bored contempt of a master. She saw confusion, and something that might have been wonder. He was a lonely, bitter young man, trapped in a life he hadn't chosen, and he had just stumbled upon a secret that shattered his understanding of the world. The people he owned, the chattel, the livestock, they had their own names. Names that connected them to ancient stories, to a past he had been forced to study. They were not blank slates. They were human. He sat in silence for a long time. Ilara stood frozen, waiting for her fate. Finally, he spoke again, his voice quieter. My father would kill you for these. Or sell you. He'd burn them. He looked at the notebooks in his hand. He'd never understand. He stood up, a little unsteadily. He walked to the desk and, to Ilara's utter astonishment, he held the notebooks out to her. Take them, he said. Hide them somewhere he'll never look. I didn't see you. I wasn't here. Ilara stared at him, her mind reeling. It was a trick. It had to be a trick. But his eyes, though clouded with drink, held no malice. Just a strange, sad weariness. She reached out and took the notebooks, clutching them to
I'm
her
here
chest.
with you. Thank you.
Why?
Rest
She whispered.
now. I'll stay. Feels
He looked
better.
away,
Good.
out the window at the dark fields where his family's wealth was rooted in the backs of people like her. Because I'm tired of this place, he said. I'm tired of my father. I'm tired of the lies. He took another drink. Maybe these names are the only true thing in it. He gestured to the door. Go. Now. Before I change my mind. Ilara didn't wait. She fled, the notebooks pressed against her heart. She ran through the dark house, out the kitchen door, and into the night. She didn't stop running until she reached the edge of the swamp, until she was hidden by the cypress trees and the hanging moss. There, in a hollow log,
That's it,
she
dear.
hid the
Be
books.
careful now.
Yes, ma'am.
Her
I'm
secret, her
trying.
truth,
Good girl.
was safe.
Keep going.
The next morning, the plantation awoke to news. Theophilus Jr.
Rest
was
easy.
gone.
The night will pass.
He had left before dawn, they said,
What's this
taking
for?
a horse and heading
It's
for
very old.
Charleston.
Be gentle.
It holds
But
our
he had
history.
not taken
Indeed,
the road to
a fine
Charleston.
lesson.
Slade, tracking the horse's prints, found they led not east, but north, towards the swamp and the country beyond. The young master had run away. Theophilus Northrop was a man possessed. His son, his only heir, had not only abandoned him but had done so in a way that suggested he was helping a slave. The horse was found, wandering loose near the swamp, but of Theophilus Jr., there was no
I'm here
sign.
with you. Thank you.
The search parties
Rest
went
now.
out,
I'll stay.
but they found
Feels
nothing.
better. Good.
The swamp was deep, and it was hungry. In the chaos, Ilara saw her chance. The overseer and the master were consumed with the search for Junior. The tight grip on the slave row loosened, just for a moment. She went to Isaac. She told him everything, about the books, about Junior, about the hollow log. She told him they had to go. Now. Tonight. Isaac listened, his face grave. He had been waiting for this moment his whole life. We take Nanny, he said. Nanny was still weak, her back a map of scars, but her eyes, when Ilara told her the plan, flickered with a spark of their old fire. The old woman started,
That's it, dear.
she whispered,
Be careful
looking
now.
at
Yes,
Ilara.
ma'am. I'm trying.
She said
Good
it
girl.
would guide
Keep
us.
going.
That night, under the same sliver of moon, 3 figures slipped away
Rest
from the
easy.
row.
The night will pass.
Ilara, Isaac, and Nanny.
What's this for?
They moved
very
through
old.
the
Be
cotton
gentle.
fields,
It holds
their
our
feet
history.
silent on the
Indeed,
soft
a
earth.
fine lesson.
They reached the edge of the swamp, the place of fear and legend, the place where runaway slaves were said to vanish, swallowed by mud and alligator and snake. It was their only hope. Behind them, a shout went up. Slade, ever watchful, had noticed their absence sooner than they hoped. A dog bayed, then another. The hunt was on. They plunged into the swamp. The water was cold, up to their knees, then their waists. The mud sucked at their feet. Vines and thorns tore at their clothes. Isaac led the way, his memory of the land guiding them through the maze of water and trees. Behind them, the baying of the hounds grew closer, more frantic. They could hear the splashing of the horses, the shouts of the men. Nanny stumbled, a cry escaping her lips. Her strength was failing. Ilara grabbed her arm, pulling her forward. We're almost there, she lied, with no idea where there it was. The dogs were close now, their voices a chorus of triumph. A light flickered through the trees, a torch. They were surrounded. Isaac stopped. He looked at Ilara, his face calm in the faint light. Run, he said. Take her and run. I'll lead them away. No? Ilara grabbed his arm. I won't leave you. You have to, he said, his voice gentle but firm. The names. You have to keep the names. Go. He pulled free from her grip and splashed loudly to the left, crashing through the undergrowth, shouting to draw the hounds. The dogs veered,
I'm here
following the
with you.
noise.
Thank you.
The torches
Rest now.
followed.
I'll stay. Feels
The sounds
better.
of the hunt
Good.
faded, swallowed by the swamp. Ilara stood frozen, the water lapping at her waist, holding Nanny's trembling body. She wanted to scream, to run after him, but her legs would not move. Then Nanny's hand, bony and cold, gripped her own. "He's right, child," she whispered. "Go. For all of us." Ilara moved. She didn't know how. She dragged Nanny through the black water, through the grasping branches, for what felt like hours. The sounds of the hunt died away completely, replaced by the sounds of the swamp, the croak of frogs, the hiss of some unseen creature, the drip of water from the trees. She didn't stop until they reached a small,
That's it,
muddy
dear.
island,
Be careful
a
now.
hummock
Yes,
of dry
ma'am,
ground
I'm
in the endless wet.
Good girl. Keep going.
There they collapsed, shivering and exhausted, as the first grey light of dawn began
Rest
to filter
easy.
through
The
the
night will
cypress
pass.
knees. They never
What's
saw
this
Isaac
for?
again.
It's very old.
They
Be
never
gentle.
learned
It
what
holds our
happened to him.
history.
Indeed, a fine
Whether
lesson.
the dogs caught him, or the swamp took him, or if he somehow escaped, was a story that was lost. He became one of the ghosts, a name in the ledger of the forgotten. Lara and Nanny were found 3 days later by a free black man who lived on the edge of the swamp, a fisherman who traded with the Gullah communities on the Sea Islands. He took them in, fed them, and helped them get further north. Nanny, her body and spirit worn thin, died that
I'm
winter
here
in a
with you.
small shack
Thank
outside
you.
a town in North
Rest now.
Carolina.
I'll stay. Feels
Her
better.
last word was
Good.
a whisper, a name Ilara did not recognize, perhaps her own true one, finally spoken aloud after a lifetime of silence. Ilara went on. She reached Philadelphia, then New York. The world she found was not the promised land. There was prejudice, poverty, the constant fear of being caught and sent back south. But there was also a small room of her own, a job as a maid for a Quaker family who paid her wages, and the precious, unbelievable freedom to walk down a street without a pass. She never married. She never had children. But she kept the secret of the swamp. Years later, when the war came and ended, and the amendments were passed, she felt a pull to go back.
That's it, dear. Be careful now.
Not to stay, but to see.
Good girl.
To
Keep
find the
going.
hollow log, if it still existed. In 1870, an old
Rest
woman with
easy.
grey
The
eyes
night
and a
will
back
pass.
bent from work returned to the South Carolina
this
low
for?
country.
It's very old.
The
Be gentle.
plantation
It
was a
holds our
ruin.
history.
Indeed,
The
a
big
fine
house
lesson.
was a burnt-out shell, gutted during the war, some said by Sherman's men, others by the freed people themselves as a final act of defiance. Theophilus Northrop was dead, his fortune gone. Slade had vanished. The slave row was a line of collapsed cabins, overtaken by weeds and kudzu. Ilara found the place where the big house had stood. She walked through the rubble, past the charred beams, to the outline of the study. The chimney was still standing, a solitary brick finger pointing at the sky. She knelt by it, her old joints protesting.
I'm here with you.
She found the
Thank
spot.
you. Rest now.
The loose
I'll
stone
stay.
was still
Feels
there,
better.
but the hollow
Good.
behind it was empty. The notebooks were gone. She felt a pang of loss, so sharp it took her breath away. Her life's work, the names of her people, lost to time. She was about to leave when she saw something glint in a crevice of the stone. She worked it free with her finger. It was a small, tarnished silver locket, the kind a young white man from a prosperous family might wear. It was rusted shut, but she pried it open with her thumbnail. Inside, there was no portrait, no lock of hair. There was a tiny, folded piece of paper, yellowed and brittle. With trembling hands, she unfolded it. The ink was faded, but the handwriting was clear.
That's it, dear.
It was a
Be
young
careful
man's
now.
hand,
Yes, ma'am,
unsteady,
I'm
as if
trying.
written in a
Good
hurry,
girl. Keep
or in
going.
the dark. It said, "I found the books.
Rest easy.
I am taking
the night
them.
will pass.
I will keep them safe."
What's this for?
Her name is
It's
not
very
Ellie.
old. Be gentle.
It
Her
holds our
name is
history.
Ilara,
Indeed, a fine lesson.
and she is worth more than all of this. It was signed with a single initial, J. Theophilus Jr. He had not died in the swamp. He had found the hollow log. He had taken the books. He had run, not just from his father, but with her secret, her truth. Ilara knelt in the rubble of the world that had tried to destroy her, holding the proof that someone, even one of them,
I'm
had
here
seen,
with you. Thank you.
had understood.
Rest now. I'll stay.
She did not know
Feels
if he had
better.
lived,
Good.
if the books had survived. But she knew, in that moment, that her story had not been for nothing. It had been seen. It had been witnessed. She died a few years later, in a small house in Brooklyn, surrounded by neighbors who knew her as a quiet, kind woman who sometimes seemed to be listening to a story no one else could hear. She was buried in an unmarked grave. The ledger from the Plantation house, the one with the impossible names, was found in 1923. It is now in a museum, in a glass case. The names, Asterope, Telesilla, Etiocles, are a puzzle to historians. Some think they are a hoax. Others, a mystery. But
That's
the
it, dear.
archivist who
Be
found it
careful now.
again in
Yes,
2019, she knows.
Good girl. Keep going.
She looks at the names and sees not a puzzle, but a prayer. A whispered
Rest
act
easy.
of
The
defiance,
night will
written in
pass.
charcoal on discarded paper,
What's
hidden
this
in
for?
a brick wall,
It's
and
very
carried
old.
into
Be
the
gentle.
future by
It
the
holds our
hands of the
history.
children of the
Indeed, a
enslaved.
fine lesson.
She sees Ilara, and Isaac, and Nanny, and all the others whose true names are still waiting to be spoken. The ledger is not just a record of property. It is a monument to the people who refuse to be forgotten. A testament to the names that should not exist, but do. They exist in the space between the lines, in the hush of the archive, in the blood memory of a people who survived. They are ghosts, yes. But they are ghosts with names. And sometimes, that is enough.